My mother really pushed me to get into theater, and at the age of 6, she took me to the National Theater to join the theater group that used to perform at the National Theater. Unfortunately, they told me that I was slightly too old for that, and I had to wait a bit. But anyway, nonetheless, Mom really encouraged me to get into theater, get involved with acting in school, and I used to do it just for the fun of it. Little did I know that this was actually molding my career, and this was going to come, somewhere along the way to help me in my career. Then upon passing my primary school exams, my father bought me a camera. This is for passing my KCPE exam, a very basic box camera, which actually, to date, I still have. Olympus Strip Junior, I remember the name as well. And I started clicking away with that and started developing my passion for photography. Apparently, I did have an eye for it. So I went on, getting better and better. Then, upon passing my high school exams, my father was kind enough to upgrade. He said, all right, a better camera for you now. And I went on clicking and improving my skills in photography, taking a liking for wildlife photography. I actually wanted to study filmmaking in university, but unfortunately at the time, the industry was virtually non-existent in Kenya. I then got a degree in international business administration, and I specialized in management. And then guess what? Upon graduating, my father was kind enough to buy me this time a very basic camcorder. Very just amateur, standard thing, but I was over the moon. I now have my own camcorder, which I would use, film things at home, go out into the bush, film with it as well. Safaris was my second love after film production, so I started a camping safaris business right after graduating. And of course, I'd take along my camcorder, my camera with it, and perfect my skills. Not really knowing that I was actually inching towards my first love, that is film production. I then decided to get into film production as I carried on doing my safaris business through acting. I don't know if anyone here remembers the Sasini tea advert. Okay, clearly it wasn't a very successful advert. But anyway, I did the Sasini tea advert, and that got me now in front of camera, into the industry. I started getting involved, doing other TV commercials, small roles in TV series, slowly working my way towards the back of the camera where my interest was. I would attend workshops, read up on film production wherever possible, just to try and improve myself. I then realized that, I was a bit rough on the edges. So I saved up and went down to South Africa and studied wildlife film production. And came back to Kenya, got back into the industry, did a lot of work, freelance. At the same time, I was running my safari business, but I think I was a little unsure about myself, that can I, is it really possible? So I wouldn't let go of my safaris business. Would be doing a lot of work, freelance. It's not until I got married, when my wife told me, hey, hang on, you've been doing so much, you've got so much under your belt, why don't you go ahead and start your own production company? With her encouragement, with her support, I then went ahead and I started my own production company. Work picked up, touchwood, so well that eventually I actually was forced to move away from safaris and be full-time in film production. Which comes to my point that it's really important to have a passion for what you want to do, for what you want to make a career out of. Because at the end of the day, you could start off with your camping safaris degree in business. But where your heart lies, where your interest is, you're eventually going to end up there. Okay, so I'm now going to talk a little bit about the film industry in Kenya. As you all know, it is a vibrant industry. It's going places. It does have a rich legacy, starting way back from President Roosevelt's safari to Kenya, to Africa. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but he actually documented it. He filmed it. And I had the pleasure of watching it. It's really, really old footage. But one scene really comes still just stuck in here. And you have Roosevelt sitting there. And you have Maasai dancers dancing around him, jumping high. And there's a lot of action going on. And all of a sudden, this text card comes up, you know. Zulu dancers doing a dance of honor for the president. And I was like, hang on, do we need to go a little down south for that? But anyway, after that came along hunting safaris. You'd have hunting parties coming in and wanting to film that. You know, eventually Out of Africa came along. That just opened up the floodgates for Kenya, for the industry. And a lot of work, foreign work, Hollywood work started coming in. But unfortunately now the competition has kicked in. There's a lot of tax incentives coming from other countries. And these days, yes, you do have the locations, but you've got CGI, you know? You can create locations anywhere. You really don't need to go to the actual location to do it. So I think the government maybe needs to just up the game there a bit, look at tax incentives and see how we can try and win back the international movies. I believe there's an Angelina Jolie movie coming down, or was meant to come down, story on Richard Leakey, but they're going down to South Africa because better tax incentives there. I believe the government is trying to fix that. I hope they do something about that. Government support. We need a lot of government support for the local industry. There's a lot of local stuff being churned out. But unfortunately, some of us, we don't set realistic goals and budgets, you know. You need to be self-sustaining. You need to make sure film is a business. It's no longer about saying, I have a passion for making films. Passion doesn't pay bills. I always tell people that. So you really need to have realistic budgets because you need to recuperate that money. So what people need to do here is set realistic budgets, money that can be recuperated, and eventually get some profits out of it. The government, again, needs to step up. They need to come in and, you know, film grants, film funds. Yes, there's the Youth Film Fund that has started recently, but yes, I mean, give them credit for starting it, but it's a loan. Now you're giving a loan to youngsters who just come out of university who are still a bit green. They're being charged interest straight away. They're expected to pay straight away. When you go into film production, you've got like 3 months of pre-production, then you've got 3 months of production if you're lucky, then you've got maybe another 3 months of post-production. So that's already 9 months. And then you're thinking of selling your film, you know, when you've got an end product. So you can just imagine the interest that's accrued there. So I think loans is not the right way forward. It should be grants. So maybe they need to do that. Okay, I do a lot of wildlife filmmaking. There's one particular documentary I did recently on elephant poaching, and I just wanted to share with you the opening sequence of this. It really moved me, this particular sequence. I was filming this out with my wife, and once we finished, we spent about 4 to 6 hours doing this sequence, and when we were done, we didn't talk to each other. We were so shaken about it. So I think let's just have a look at that.
Funika hii. Funika hii. Oh, you finally lost it.
basically that was an elephant dying because it had been poisoned. You have poachers who take watermelon, put poison in it, leave it out there, let the elephant eat it, and they just follow the elephant and wait for it to die. The doctors at Tsavo came across this elephant and notified us immediately about it, and they tried to save it, but there was no hope. The Last in Line is actually a documentary on wildlife, on poaching, that looks at poaching from a totally different angle. It actually discovers the history of poaching, where it all started, how it started. My production house fully financed this. I did not co-produce it with anything because I felt really, really strongly about this subject. It questions poverty and the role it plays in the poaching menace. Gado here showed us a cartoon about the Al-Shabaab and poor people. It's a similar sort of theory here. You have people who can't bring food to the table for their families, and you have somebody telling them, all right, here's 1,000 bob, technically, get us some tasks, you know? So I'm not justifying it, but these are the kind of issues we need to address, you know, that can we tackle poverty? Don't just say, oh, put an end to poaching. Poaching must end, you know? Stop the ivory trade or smuggling and all that. No. You need to understand where exactly is the problem. It's an interesting documentary. We've actually interviewed a reformed poacher who's actually told us all about how they used to do their business. Horrific stuff, quite graphic, the description and how they did it, and even how he lost friends out there. So we look at it from a different angle. Today it's called poaching. Before that, it was called sports hunting, then culling. And then back in the days, it was called the ivory trade, when Zanzibar was you know, the center of trade for East Africa. So I think it's really important to understand man's romance with ivory. When did it begin? Before looking into solutions to the problem. You can see that's the Zanzibar trade and Tipu Tip, the famous slave trader and ivory dealer. An interesting story. I was out in Nigeria filming in the Roko rainforest, and very nice guys there. And one of them asked me, you know, where do you come from? So I said, I'm Kenyan, you know. And then this was out in Nigeria, and the Nigerian goes, how now? How can you be Kenyan? And I said, no, I'm very much Kenyan. And he says, no, sir. Then I'm sure somewhere along the line, a white man did something to a black woman. and I said, no, a white man didn't do anything to a black woman. I'm a fourth-generation Kenyan. My great-grandfather came to Kenya to build the railway. And ever since, we've been in Kenya. My grandparents were all in the railways. My granddad, maternal granddad, drove the train that took the Queen around during her coronation, which is why I feel very strongly about this current documentary that I'm actually in production in, and I'm working on.
Ando makwa mbithukicie ningumukania chuma kiasa kithikitanzoka kikwicha mwaki.
Many moons ago, a slave route robbed Africa of its humanity. On it, the British built a railway, penetrating deep into Africa, stealing her resources. My great-grandfather was brought to Kenya from the subcontinent to build this railway. He made Kenya his new home and brought over his entire family. Spine-chilling incidents of man-eating lions have been passed down generations to me.
Some of them they think that he's the devil. The lion comes and jumps into the camp, take the man, throw it outside and take it away.
When the wise prophetess warned of the coming of the iron snake, was she referring to the railway built by the British? Or perhaps it was in reference to the Kenyan railway currently being constructed by the Chinese, a railway destined to stretch into Greater East Africa.
It is not uncommon for a country to create a railway, but it is uncommon for a railway to create a country. It was referring to Kenya as a country. So Kenya actually was created by the railway.
Is Kenya truly an independent state? Has it really broken away from the shackles of slavery? As my journey continues, I look back at history and question, will history repeat itself? Is a voracious force of nature preparing to devour Africa once more? What will Africa be robbed of this time along? That's my question. In the 1890s, a railway was built for us. In 2014, a railway is being built for us. As a nation, we just celebrated 50 years of independence. Wow. Why can't we build our own railway? Some tough questions that we need to ask ourselves. Yes, it's important to have infrastructure. We need to develop. Yes, that's true. But at what cost? What is the cost of this development? A huge chunk of land is going to be shaved off. I believe it already has been, from the Tsavo ecosystem to allow for this railway to be built. Tsavo is, I think, home to arguably the biggest herds of elephant in Africa at the moment. Now, what we've just done is we've shrunk the world of the elephant a little more. So what are the elephants going to do now? Where are they going to look for food? Where are they going to look for water? When an elephant goes and tramples over someone's maize farm, who's to blame? The elephant or us? When an elephant comes into contact with a human, because we have shrunk its world to build our railway, and kills that human, who's to blame? The elephant or us? Do you think we're really being fair? I'm sure you people all are aware of the man-eaters of Tsavo when the railway was being built back in the 1890s. They were believed to be ghosts that were trying to stop this whole thing from penetrating into Africa. This time around, are they going to come back? Are they going to try and stop this again? The famous prophetess, Syokimau, she spoke of an iron snake that would have its tail in the Indian Ocean and its head in Lake Victoria. When she spoke of this iron snake, was it in reference to the railway that was being built by the British? Or was it in reference to the oriental snake that's about to be built? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. You've been a lovely audience.